Can we talk about something that's been driving me insane? I've been working with nonprofits for years now, doing UX research, data audits, impact measurement, and I see the same pattern over and over. These organizations are doing incredible work, like genuinely life-changing, community-transforming work. But when I ask them, hey, can I see your impact data? I watch their face do this thing. This very specific combination of panic and embarrassment and exhaustion because their data isn't all in one place. It's not even in 5 places. It is in spreadsheets and Google Forms and QuickBooks and email threads and someone's notebook and a shared drive that nobody can find the password to, probably a Post-it note from 2019. And here's what kills me. They think it's their fault. They think they're disorganized. They think they're bad at data. They think if they were just better at the data piece of this wouldn't be a problem. But that is not what's happening here. So let me tell you a little bit about what's actually happening with nonprofit data and why it's not your fault. Here's the thing about how nonprofits grow. You start really small, right? So you've got a mission, you've got a handful of people, and you've got a ton of passion. At first, your data tracking is probably pretty simple. Maybe it's a Google form for intake. Maybe it's a spreadsheet where you log who you've served. And that works because you're serving 20 people a year and everyone knows everyone. But then you grow. You get a grant, so the funder wants data tracked their way. So you create a new spreadsheet with their specific fields. You hire someone to handle finances. Maybe they get you set up in QuickBooks. You start doing events. Maybe someone creates a sign-in sheet system that you expand your programs, and then each program coordinator creates their own tracking method and makes sense for their own work. Then you get another grant and another tracking system. And every single one of these decisions made sense in the moment. Nobody woke up and said, you know what would be great if our data was scattered across 15 platforms and nobody could find anything. But that is what happens when you're growing organically and when you're solving problems as they come up. It's like, imagine if you're building a house, but you're doing it one room at a time over like 10 years, and each room was built by a different contractor who never talked to the other contractors. So all of the rooms work individually, but try to throw a dinner party where people need to move between rooms, and it's absolute chaos. And that is nonprofit data in a nutshell. And it's not because anyone did anything wrong, it's because they're focused on serving people, not building integrated data systems. As they should be, by the way, that is literally their job. But now you're in a place where your data is fragmented, and that fragmentation is creating real problems. So let's talk about what this actually costs you. And I don't just mean time, though, yeah, if you're spending 20 hours before every board meeting trying to compile a coherent report, that's 20 hours you're not spending on programs or fundraising or literally anything else. But the costs go deeper than that. So cost number 1 is you can't see your own patterns. When your data is scattered, you can't spot the trends, and you can't see that maybe your intake numbers drop every July, or that certain programs have way better outcomes than others, or that you're serving the same families across multiple programs, but maybe no one realized it. You are flying blind. And that means you can't make strategic decisions based on what's actually working. Cost number 2, your impact story falls flat. So here's some behavioral psychology for you. Human brains are wired for narrative coherence. So when someone asks, what's your impact? And you start pulling numbers from different places and piecing them together like a jigsaw puzzle, even if the numbers are good, it does not land the same way. Fragmented data creates fragmented trust. Board members, donors, funders, they need to see a clear, coherent story. So when your data feels pieced together, it undermines the power of your actual impact. Cost number 3, you're burning out your team. Every time someone needs a report, it is an archaeological dig. Every time a funder asks a question, it's hours of detective work. And that lands on somebody, usually your executive director, a program coordinator, or whoever's good with numbers and spreadsheets. They are staying late, they're stressed. Maybe they're spending mental energy on data compilation instead of the strategic thinking that is required of their job. And here's the kicker, and cost number 4. You're missing funding opportunities. When you can't quickly pull together a compelling impact narrative with solid data backing it up, you can't respond to funding opportunities quickly. That foundation that wants a 2-page LOI by next week, you can't do it because you need 3 days to figure out your numbers. That corporate sponsor who wants to know your cost per person served, you're guessing because you'd need to cross-reference 4 different systems to actually calculate that. And this isn't theoretical. This is costing you actual money and actual opportunities to expand your impact. So yeah, data fragmentation isn't just annoying, it's holding you back. Now you might be thinking, okay, Emily, so what do we do? Get one of those all-in-one nonprofit CRM platforms? And look, I'm not here to trash those systems. Some of them are great, but here is what I see happen. A nonprofit realizes their data is a mess. They decide they need a solution, so they research CRMs. They pick one that costs $200 to $500 a month, and they're excited, but then the implementation is a nightmare because now you have to migrate all of your existing data, which is already messy and inconsistent, into this new system. You have to train your whole team on a new software. You have to rebuild all of your workflows to fit within that CRM. You have to customize your fields and reports. And 6 months in, you spent $3,000 plus hundreds of staff hours, and half your team is still using the old spreadsheets because the CRM doesn't work for their program. I'm not saying don't ever get a CRM. Some organizations need them. But most organizations I work with don't need more technology. They need a system, and they need reporting structure. They need strategic clarity about what data matters. And here's a controversial take. You can fix your data fragmentation problem without consolidating all of your systems. You don't need to force everything into one platform. You just need one place where your key metrics live and get updated regularly. So add a reporting layer on top of your messy systems. Think of it like your operational systems can stay as chaotic as they need to be in the kitchen, but when you serve the meal to your board or your funders, it needs to look intentional and it needs to look delicious. They don't need to see the kitchen, they need to see the impact. And you can create that reporting layer in one afternoon in a Google Sheet and some strategic thinking. Here's something that will make your life easier. Not all data is created equal. Most nonprofits are tracking 3 main types of data, and they're treating all of it like it's equally important when it's not. So type 1 is compliance data. This is data you track because you have to. Grant requirements, government reporting, legal stuff. This data is necessary, but it is not strategic. It is not what's going to inspire donors or guide your decisions. You track it, you report it, and you move on. The second type is operational data. So this is the data that helps you run your programs day to day. These would be attendance sheets, inventory, schedules, logistics. Super important for operations, not particularly compelling for external audiences. And then there's a third type, impact data. This is your hero. This is the data that tells your story. How many people did you serve? What changed for them? How efficiently are you operating? What is your reach? What is your trajectory? This is the data that makes board members lean in and funders pull out their checkbooks. And here's the problem. Most nonprofits are drowning in type 1 and type 2 data, and they're not clearly identifying or tracking their type 3 data, which is their impact data. Or if they are tracking it, it's buried under mountains of compliance spreadsheets and operational logistics. So here's what I want you to do. Ask yourself, what are 3 to 5 metrics that actually tell our impact story? Not the 47 things you're tracking because various funders have asked for them. The 3 to 5 numbers that if someone asked, what does your organization do and how well are you doing it? These are the numbers that you would point to. These are your hero metrics. And once you identify them, you need one place where these metrics live and get updated regularly. That's it. That is the whole strategy. You can keep all your messy systems, but create one dashboard where your hero metrics are visible, current, and ready to turn into a narrative at any time. Now let's talk about what board-ready data actually looks like, because I think there's this misconception that board-ready means polished, professional, lots of charts and graphs, looks like a consulting firm made it. That is not what board-ready means. Board-ready means a busy person can understand your impact in under 60 seconds. That is it. Your board members are likely volunteers, they have jobs, they have families, they're giving you their time and their expertise, but they don't have hours to dig through spreadsheets. So board-ready data is data that is clear. They don't need to interpret or guess what the numbers mean. It is contextualized. They understand why the numbers matter, and it's narrative driven, so it tells a story, not just lists facts. And it needs to be action-oriented, so it points towards what is next. Here's the format that I use. One single slide, 4 components. You have the headline, which is your biggest impact number. We served 487 families in Q4, which is our highest quarter ever. The context, why that matters. That's a 34% increase from last year, even as funding remained flat. So next we would have the insight, what this tells us. Our volunteer training program is scaling impact without scaling budget. And then what's next, where you're headed. With 2 new volunteer cohorts, we're projecting 600 families in Q1. One slide, under 60 seconds to read, fully board ready. And this comes directly from your impact dashboard. You're just translating metrics into narrative. This is what I help organizations build, and it's honestly so simple that people are shocked to see how well it works. So here's where we're at. Your data is probably fragmented. That is not your fault. It is how nonprofits grow. But that fragmentation is likely costing you time, funding opportunities, strategic clarity, and team bandwidth. The solution isn't necessarily a $10,000 CRM or a 6-month data overhaul. The solution is strategic simplicity. Identify your hero metrics, create one reporting dashboard, and learn to translate data into narrative. And that's exactly what I'm going to walk you through. I'm going to go live on January 7th to do a full breakdown of the 30-minute data detox framework. Here, I'm going to show you how to do a data inventory so you know where everything actually lives, how to identify your 3 to 5 hero metrics, how to build your impact dashboard in a Google Sheet, and how to make it board ready. And I'm dropping free templates for everyone who shows up. If you've got a board meeting coming up in January and the thought of compiling your data is giving you anxiety, this is for you. So set a reminder, mark your calendar. I will drop the link and all the details in my next post. Your programs are incredible. Let's make sure your data shows it, and I will see you on the 7th.